Okay, great. Hey, thank you so much for being on our webinar tonight for the Retirement Scholarship Strategy. I am so excited to be going over this information with you because I am going to talk about how to save and pay for college without sacrificing your retirement. So hopefully everyone's excited to learn how to do that. Now, there we go. How many of you are stressed or shocked about the high cost of college? You can use your hand raise. You can put it in your comments. Looks like we've got lots of people. If you're not upset or concerned or shocked about the cost of college, you probably wouldn't be here. But based on the response that we're getting, I'm sure everyone is extremely shocked about how much college is costing. In fact, how could any of us ever imagine that the cost of college would go up so much? I mean, almost 1,400% since 1978. It is crazy how expensive the cost of college has gone up. In fact, the average cost of college is now $35,000 per year, and the cost has tripled in 20 years. The annual growth rate's been about 6.8%, and the average in-state student is paying about $25,000 per year. That's not, that's after, scholarships and financial aid and everything else. The average private university student is spending about $53,000 per year. Now, to break that down, you're talking about over $100,000 for a basic in-state education. That's over almost $175,000 for an out-of-state education and over $200,000 for the average private school education. That is crazy. That is a mortgage. And in fact, only 39% of the students are graduating within 4 years. So you tack on 5 or 6 years. It is amazing how expensive it is. In fact, once again, this is the average that the student is actually paying after all the scholarships and financial aid and everything like that. So yes, we are talking about, buying a house. And, as we go to college, these are mortgage payments, right? These are mortgages. So do not be ashamed if you don't have enough money saved for college. That is the theme of our webinar today, is we are going to talk about how to finance college and how to pay for college. And the rules change when you're talking about this kind of money. This is like buying a house. We're talking about mortgages here. So we have to be smart about how we're financing something this expensive. Most families will need to borrow money for college. I know the society is really good at shaming everyone that borrows money, and it's this badge of honor if you pay cash for something. But we are talking about a lot of money here, and most families are going to need to borrow money for college. In fact, even if you have enough money saved for college, you may want to consider alternative strategies to be able to maximize your retirement income. So the reality of it is college is expensive, and it's only going to get more expensive. And plus, the timing is horrible. It's all over the news headlines. We all know that most of us are not where we would like to be for retirement, right? And now all of a sudden we have one of the biggest expenses of our lives as these kids start to get ready to go to school, and we want to help them so they're not buried in college loan debt, even if they want, to have if you want them to have some skin in the game, or if you want them to be responsible for some of it. A lot of parents are going to be involved in helping the kids pay for college, and it's at the worst possible timing of everything. Now, some people always ask me, they say, why doesn't the government do something about this increasing cost of college? How could it possibly go up so much? Well, they actually did do something. About 10 years ago, they took over all the college loans. So it used to be that they just backed the college loans, but now most of the loans are actually through the government. In fact, they're like the largest bank in the country right now because they are financing these college educations. In fact, it's over 50% of their assets, according to the financial accounts of the United States for Q2 in 2019. So it's a little bit dated, but the reality of it is that the government is financing these educations. And so it's a big asset for them. And that might be one of the reasons why they're not doing anything about the cost of college. These colleges can charge anything they want. So luckily, yes, there is hope. You are in the right spot, because during this webinar, you will learn the most efficient way to finance a college degree, the difference between government loans and private loans. We're going to talk about some of the government loan programs that can reduce the cost of college. So even though they're not doing anything about the cost of college, they are doing something about some of the programs that they have for you for repaying these loans. that we're going to look at some advanced college loan strategies where we can use some of these techniques to pay back pennies on the dollar for the money that we borrow. We're going to look at whether or not you should use your savings and cash flow to pay for college, or should you borrow the money for college at a lower interest rate than what you could be earning on your money. We're also going to talk about how to create the perfect college funding plan without sacrificing your retirement. We're going to talk about how to save and pay for college without hurting your financial aid opportunities. We'll talk about how to pay for college and get all of your money back during retirement. Let me repeat that. All right. How to pay for college and get all of your money back during retirement. I know it sounds too good to be true. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. Little known financial strategies used by the billionaires and large corporations that you can use to pay for college, and how to borrow against your college savings account for emergencies without interrupting the compounding interest so you can stay on track for your college funding goals. We will also talk about how to earn 0 to 20% returns on your college savings without losing any money in the stock market. So the worst you could get is 0, and you could get over 20% returns. We'll also talk about how to create a college savings plan with less fees than the average 529 plan, and how to use your college savings as collateral to secure loans at a guaranteed 5% loan rate without a payment requirement. We're going to talk about how to create a tax-free college savings plan without having to use a 529 account or a Roth IRA. We will also look at how to use your college savings plan without taxes or penalties for alternative higher education opportunities that don't qualify as a qualified education expense. Right? And you will also discover the problems with your traditional 529 accounts, and why you may want to consider stop funding them immediately. Now, finally, and most important, we will also learn the answers to the 2 most common questions that everyone seems to ask me when I go over this information with them, which is, why isn't everyone doing this? And why hasn't anyone told me about this before? So we'll definitely cover that as well. Now, who is this webinar for? This is for those of you who have younger kids and you're just starting to save for college, or those of you who have high school students and nothing saved for college, or those of you who have plenty of money saved for college, but you would like to leverage that money to use it for retirement. And those of you who have already have students in college, and those of you who already have students who have maybe graduated and have existing student loans. That's right. In other words, let me repeat, it is not too late. This webinar is specifically designed for everyone, from those of you who have young kids to those of you who have kids that have already graduated college and you have these college loans and you need to figure out how to pay them back strategically. It's going to cover all of you. Okay. Now, for those of you who don't know who I am, if you haven't been on my list for a while, or if you're not in our private Facebook group, my name is Lance Morgan, and I am the proud father of these 5 beautiful college-bound students. Okay. Now, I am also the author of the Retirement Scholarship Strategy book, which was an Amazon bestseller, and I'm the founder of College Funding Education, and I'm a member of the National College Advocacy Group, and I have been teaching families financial education for 15 years. Now, out of all of my, designations that I've had over the years, my biggest qualification to be sharing this information with you right now are these 5 kids, because I am a parent just like you, and I am going through what you are going through. My oldest is in college. She's actually taking a break right now from college to serve a mission for our church, but she has already gone through 1 year of school. I've got a high school student. I've got 2 elementary school students, and the little guy who just graduated preschool and is starting kindergarten. So yes, I have a wide range. This information is extremely important to me. I was in the IT industry, and my wife wanted to have a big family. And as we started to have this big family, I started to realize how expensive college would be. I actually left the financial industry, or the IT industry, went into the financial industry. And unfortunately, I'll be honest with you, I didn't learn a whole lot about financial strategies. I was a little disappointed. The financial industry was really good at teaching you how to sell products. And specifically, they taught you how to sell the products that the company offered, but they didn't really teach you financial strategies until I learned, or I met a guy one day that had this program. It was a 12-month program, cost about $15,000 to go through this 12-month program. And the entire time, all we did is study financial strategies of the wealthy and the large corporations and how to minimize taxes and how to leverage assets and all sorts of, opportunity cost and the impact of losses and just so many things about money. We didn't even talk really about products for an entire year. We just talked about financial strategies. And that is where I learned a lot of what I'm going to share with you today. But the reality of it is that I've learned a lot of this information out of desperation more than inspiration, because I've wanted to be able to apply this information for my 5 kids. And so that is where I've learned a lot of this information. Now, to dive into this information, if you look at the whole gamut of college funding, there's the scholarships and the financial aid, which a lot of times is where people spend most of their efforts and most of their focus, right? So everyone wants to reduce the cost of college. And hey, I don't blame you. Nobody wants to get on the airplane and find out that you paid more for your plane ticket than the guy next to you and you're going to the same place, right? So you definitely want to do everything you can to reduce the cost of college. But in this particular webinar, we are going to focus on the real problem and where you can save the most money, which is in the college financing and in the college funding. So that is what we're going to focus on this particular webinar. So let's dive into this information, starting with college financing. Now, I'm going to say this again, but I'm going to say it now. You will either pay interest or you will give up the ability to earn interest. Okay, so everyone is going to finance college. You're either going to pay interest or you're going to give up the ability to earn interest, which we'll call opportunity cost, right? So I don't know how many of you saw this article, but it came out not too long ago, and it was about all of these billionaires that aren't paying their fair share in taxes. And everyone reposted this article, Forbes, the Washington Post, everybody did. And it talks about how in 2007, Jeff Bezos, then a multi-billionaire and now the world's richest man, did not pay a penny in federal income taxes. He achieved the feat again in 2011. And in 2018, Tesla's founder, Elon Musk, then the second richest person in the world, also paid no federal income taxes. In fact, if you look at Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, Michael Bloomberg, Elon Musk, and several others, and if you look at their, the amount of wealth that they have and the total income that they reported versus the taxes paid, the actual true tax rate is minuscule, right? It's very, very small. So this article was, is mostly frustrated with why they aren't paying their fair share in taxes. What's fascinating about this article is how, okay? How are they doing this, and how can we use these strategies to pay for college? Well, their wealth derives from the skyrocketing value of their assets. We call that uninterrupted compounding interest. So their assets in Tesla or Amazon that they own, or whatever their assets are, they're compounding uninterrupted. So those gains are not defined by the US tax laws as taxable income unless and until the billionaire sells those assets. So how do the mega billionaires pay their mega bills while opting for dollar salaries and hanging on to their stocks? Well, according to public documents and experts, the answer for some is borrowing money, lots of it. Now, why do I bring this up? Because we can learn a lot from this, right? And we can learn from what these billionaires are doing. First of all, their assets are growing uninterrupted. Second of all, they are using their assets as collateral. So if you take their assets over the years, those assets are going to grow in value, right? So in order to pay for stuff, whether it's college or whether it's their yachts or whatever their, lifestyle is, they're going to borrow that money using their assets as collateral, okay? So using loans to pay for college is not bad if used strategically, okay? So you finance every major expense, and we know that paying for college is obviously a major expense. It's like a mortgage, right? You either pay interest or you give up the ability to earn interest. In other words, you must consider the cost, and you also must consider the opportunity cost. It's like the goose that lays the golden eggs. We live out here on 6 acres. We have about 50 chickens, and every day there's about 3 to 4 dozen eggs out there, okay? And it's like clockwork, because as long as we have those chickens laying eggs, or we couldn't find any geese laying golden eggs, so we had to settle for chickens. But it's those assets that produce on a regular basis is the idea, right? Let me give you some numbers. So let's say that we're talking about 1 year of college. Let's say we're talking about $30,000, 1 year of college. If you could earn, let's say that you have, 1 year's worth of college in savings, in college savings, right? And let's say your college savings is earning 5%, we'll be conservative. And let's say that you could borrow money to pay for college also at 5%. So we have $30,000 that we could either pay for college and give up the 5%, or we could borrow $30,000 at 5%. Over 4 years, which you are able to defer payments. So over 4 years, your $30,000 loan would grow to $36,000. It would accrue $6,000 of interest. However, if you didn't take your cash and pay for college, or if you didn't take your savings and pay for college, right, that money could have earned $6,000 of interest. It's the exact same. So whether you could earn 5% of interest, or whether it's going to cost you 5% in interest, the cost is the same. You either give up the interest or you pay interest, right? So imagine this. Just go with me on this. I want to make sure you're with me. So pull out your chat box here, right? If a bank paid 7% on savings, and you could borrow the bank's money at 5% to pay for college, would you use savings and cash flow to pay for college? Or would you borrow the money from the bank at 5%? What do you think? Put it in the chat box. Do you think you would pay cash? All right. Do you think you would use your savings that was earning 7%, or do you think you would use the bank's money at 5%? All right. Borrow at 5, borrow for sure. All right. Borrow. It looks like everyone agrees that you would borrow the money. Now, the problem is that the banks obviously don't pay 7% on savings, but I will show you still a way to do this. Okay. Now let's first talk about some college loan information, some college loan basics. Let's first talk about the student loans. I'm not talking about the loans for the parents or for the graduate students. These are just the students for an undergrad. Okay. The freshman year, the students can take out $5,500 in loans in their name. That's it. So for any of you parents that don't want to help your kids pay for college, unfortunately, they're not going to be able to borrow enough to pay for college on their own. They will only let these kids borrow $5,500, and no more than $3,500 of it can be in the subsidized loans, which we'll talk about in a second. The sophomore year, they can borrow $6,500, no more than $4,500 in the subsidized loans. And the junior and senior year, they can borrow $7,500, no more than $5,500 in the subsidized loans. That is a total of $27,000 that the student can get in their name for an undergrad. Okay. Now, the current interest rates are about 3.73. It might be different if you're watching a recording of this webinar in the future, but right now, the interest rates for this year are 3.73. Now that's pretty good for an unsecured loan, right? You're not putting up your house as collateral or a car as collateral, right? This is unsecured loans at 3.7%, and there's a small origination fee as well, but that's pretty reasonable. Now, what about these, what's the difference between Stafford loans as subsidized and unsubsidized? Also, by the way, these direct subsidized and direct unsubsidized loans are also referred to as Stafford loans. The government, on the subsidized loans, the government pays the interest while the student is in school plus 6 months after graduation. And that interest doesn't accrue even while the student is in graduate school. The payments can be deferred until 6 months after graduation. There are also some forbearance options without hurting your credit, where you could say, hey, I need another year, without making any payments. You can postpone the payments even longer if you'd like. And the loans can be all consolidated, because typically you take out, about 4 different loans for each year, total of 4, right? Those can be consolidated. And those loans are typically in the student's name, or not typically, they always are in the student's name. And they're a low fixed interest rate, okay? Now, these unsubsidized loans can still be available even if you don't qualify for any subsidized loans. So if you, based on your income and your assets, they might not give you any subsidized loans, but they'll give you the Stafford loans, which are available to the students, even if they don't have a financial need. And the federal government, however, does not pay the interest while the student is in school. And the loans are in the student's name. And it's still that same low fixed interest rate, same rate. And the standard repayment plans are anywhere from about 10 to 30 years to repay the loans, depending on the loan amount. Okay. Now, also, I was going to tell you earlier in the beginning, if you have any questions as we go, put it in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll get to those questions at the end. Okay. Now, additional repayment programs like income-based repayment plans. These are for the students, okay? Income-based repayment plans, income contingent repayment plans, all right? Income-sensitive repayment plans, pay-as-you-earn repayment plans, and revised pay-as-you-earn, and public service loan forgiveness. So in other words, the government hasn't really done anything to solve the root of the problem, which is this increasing cost of college, right? It seems like these universities can pay anything that they want, but the government has come out with a lot of these government loan programs to be able to help in paying back these college loans. So it's not always just the interest rate on the loans. You might be able to pay pennies on the dollar for your loans with some of these programs, as I'll show you in a couple case studies here. Now, some additional student loan considerations is that the loans are discharged due to death or permanent disability. So if your student, becomes permanently disabled or dies, unfortunately, obviously, then those loans would be forgiven. Now, what about these Grad Plus loans? These are for the kids that want to go to graduate school, get a master's, go to law school, medical school, become a, veterinarian, whatever the case may be, okay? These Grad Plus loans, you can actually borrow up to the amount of the cost of attendance, basically. In other words, you can borrow the full amount determined by the school, whatever the school says the cost of attendance is, the kids can borrow the full amount in their name. So although they are limited for the undergrad, they can borrow the full amount. That's why you see a lot of medical students, right? And a lot of dentists and, chiropractors and things like that. They come out with $200,000-$300,000 in student loans in their name. Okay, higher interest than the student loans, currently at 5.28%, but still not bad for for unsecured loans. Right, those are still not bad interest rates. Now, let's talk about private student loans. Okay. Here's the good. Higher borrowing limits. Okay. So the government loans, through the Stafford loans, the kids can only borrow $27,000. In this example, the private loans, the kids can borrow a lot more, okay, based on, their cosigner typically. And the lower interest rates are for higher qualified borrowers. Kind of hard to beat some of those interest rates, but in some cases you might be able to get a lower interest rate on a private loan based on, if you're a high qualified borrower. However, the interest rates are variable, so you have to be careful. So from year to year, the interest rates are going to change, and you need to kind of know whether you're getting a fixed interest rate for the life of the loan, or if you're getting a loan that's going to be a variable rate. So you have to be kind of careful with that. Now, here's the bad. Higher interest rates for bad credit, whereas the government loans are a standardized interest rate for everybody. Limited payment plans. So you don't really have some of these, income-based repayment plans or anything like that. And they're ineligible for things like income-based repayment and public service loan forgiveness, things like that, right? And there's no federal subsidy, and there's no federal student loan protection like forbearance. So you can't, postpone payments for a year or 3, okay? Now, also, during COVID, they put all of the payments on hold, and they also put the interest on the loans on hold. That's not going to happen with your private loans unless they choose to do it. But generally speaking, that is going to be a government type forbearance that you would qualify for here. And a cosigner is typically required. So for you parents that say, I don't want to take out any loans in my name, so we're going to go get private loans in the student's name, you're still going to need to be a cosigner on those loans, okay? So now let's talk about the direct Parent Plus loans or the Direct Plus loans, okay? These are the loans that are through the government in the parent's name, all right? These are a little bit higher interest rate, currently at 6.28, like I said, check the current rates, but 6.28 is not too bad based on the fact that these are unsecured loans. They're not using a house or a car as collateral or anything like that. Some other, considerations and some pros are Parent Plus loans are unsecured, like I said, and the interest is fixed, okay? And it's the same interest for everyone. You borrow exactly the right amount. You literally go on, apply for the loans, and the government sends the money directly to the university. It's the slickest thing ever. When I did it for my daughter, the money went to the university within like 48 hours. It was crazy. I was approved within like 30 minutes, super easy, okay? Easy approval, deferment options, okay? So you have the option to defer until 6 months after graduation, meaning that you are deferring the payments on the loans until 6 months after graduation. You also have the option to apply for forbearance, which allows you to defer the payments for 12 months, and you can do that up to 3 times per loan, okay? Then you can consolidate and do it again, which I'll get into in a minute. Now, here are some of the cons. They're typically a little bit higher interest rate, and there are some origination fees on these loans, but it kind of depends on your credit and everything else. These may be a lower interest rate. It just depends. You don't have these income-driven repayment options by default, and you can't transfer the loan into the student's name. These are always your loans. Now, you're welcome to have the kids make the loan payments, but I know sometimes that can be a little bit awkward. I mean, when they come over for Sunday dinner, are you going to say, hey, Jimmy, are you current on that loan payment of mine? Sometimes that's a little annoying for some parents, and they don't like that, but these are sometimes your best options. Increases your debt to income ratio is obviously not, an ideal scenario there. Can't be discharged in bankruptcies. Okay. Now, let's look at some advanced college loan strategies, how to pay back pennies on the dollar for your college loans. Okay. First of all, consider maxing out the student and the Grad Plus loans, even if you as the parent are trying to pay for all of college. So some parents want their kids to have some skin in the game. Some parents want to pay for all of it. I would still encourage you to have the kids take out as much as they can in their name, because there's a lot more options by default for them. Consider taking out the Parent Plus loan on the oldest parent, because they are forgiven at death. So one strategy is to defer the payments as long as you can, and then spread the payments out as long as you can. And then there's a good chance you might pass away before all the loans are paid back. That's one thing to consider. Now, the other thing to consider is taking out the Parent Plus loans on the lowest income parent. So if you're both making an equal amount of money, then take the loans out on the oldest one. If one of you as a parent makes a lot less than the other parent, then take out the loans on the parent that makes the least amount of income, in case you can qualify for some income-based repayment plans, which I'll explain how to do that. Okay. Now, how would you like to keep your money as long as possible, use your money to fund your retirement, repay your loans with pennies on the dollar, and qualify for loan forgiveness programs, including public service loan forgiveness program as a parent, okay? And never actually pay all your loans back. Now, here is how you would do it. Number one, borrow 4 times per child for 4 years. So every year you're going to take out a different loan per child, okay? Defer the payments for all 4 years. So you're not making any payments on any of these loans. You're keeping your money as long as possible. Elect the forbearance option, each loan 3 times, okay? Then consolidate the loans, okay, multiple loans into 2, and then consolidate those 2 into 1. And now all of a sudden, this is a little loophole, but now all of a sudden, you as the parent, by using the Parent Plus loans, you can what we call double consolidate. And all of a sudden now you qualify for income-based repayment, all right? And income, contingent repayment, public service loan forgiveness, all of these types of programs, okay? Pay as you earn, all of that. And now you can, end up paying back pennies on the dollar and potentially have a lot of your loans actually forgiven. Let me give you an example. Okay, here is a case study I want to show you. This is Sal. Sal works for the DMV, age 55 with 2 kids. He's remarried, doesn't want his new wife to be saddled with all of his loan debt that he has. His income is only $60,000 a year, and he's borrowed $130,000 in the Direct Parent Plus loans. Okay, the standard 10-year repayment plan is $1,400 a month. That's the default. $1,400 a month, but he can't afford $1,400 a month on these college loans and also save for retirement. Okay. If he did pay $1,400 a month for 10 years, that would be $173,000 to pay back $130,000 in loans because of all that interest, right? So what Sal is going to do is consolidate 8 loans into 2 and qualify for income contingent repayment. The new payment is going to be $709 per month, and he's going to consolidate the two other already consolidated loans into 1 loan, which is what we call double consolidation, okay? And then he's going to file married, filing separately, and his new monthly payment is $282 for 20 years. That's $67,000 in loan payments, and then the rest are forgiven. Saves $1,100, almost $1,200 a month that he could use to invest for retirement. Now, that's $104,000 that's forgiven. And if Sal opts for what we call public service loan forgiveness, since he works for the DMV, his payments would go to $232 for 10 years, or 120 consecutive payments to be more exact. Okay, $232 a month for 120 months, and then the rest is forgiven if he chose the public service loan forgiveness option. Isn't that crazy? Now, let me give you another case study. Barbara is a sales manager, age 46, 2 children, head of household, adjusted gross income $60,000, and owes $70,000 of her own loans, okay, and her daughter's loans for $117,000. Total loans in Barbara's name is $187,000 in her name between her loans and her daughter's loans. Hasn't saved much for retirement. The current plan that she was on is $1,200 a month for 25 years. That's $360,000 over 25 years. What do? Consolidate 12 loans into 2 consolidated loans, then double consolidate under the repay plan. The new payment for this client is $290 a month for 20 years, or in other words, $69,000. Saves $290,000 in loan payments and has $910 a month to invest for retirement. Okay. Is this making sense? Is everybody liking this? Is this good? Is this good information? Give me a thumbs up if this is helpful. All right. All right. Looks like we've got some thumbs up. Good. All right. Perfect. Excellent. All right. Now, I know this can be a little bit complicated, but for now, what I want you to think about is your college loan payment as a tax. Now, it kind of varies, but let's just call it about a 10% average. So your loan payment through some of these programs can end up being about 10% of your discretionary income. All right. So instead of being saddled with these huge college loan payments, it could be looked at more like a tax, which can be a lot more manageable. Okay. Now, I do want to say that this can be complicated, and that's why they created a certification called the Certified Student Loan Planner. Okay. It's like any other certification. You have to go through a lot of studying and education and become certified, pass a test and everything else to become a certified student loan planner. You're going to want to make sure that you work with a certified student loan planner, because this can be very complicated. And a lot of times you need assistance to make sure you're navigating it correctly. Now, also a word of caution. These are government programs, okay? Government programs can change, right? So the problem is that if the program changes in the future and you were only planning on paying $200 a month and you go and rack up 200 grand in college loan debt, that's not financially smart, okay? So you want to plan for the worst and you want to hope for the best, because a lot of this is going to come into play when the kids graduate based on what college loan programs are available at the time. Okay, so word of caution, plan for the worst, hope for the best, which brings me to your college funding plan. You need to go into paying for college with a plan, and you need to have some money available to pay for college or to pay back these college loans with. So even if you are even if you have a senior in high school right now with no money saved for college, you can still start one of these plans and be ready for those college loan payments. In other words, you can get about a 4 or 5 year head start. Okay. So how you pay for college is 10 times more important than how much you pay for college. Like I'm saying, I'm not saying that you shouldn't, try to maximize your financial aid and maximize the scholarships. But after you've done all that you can do, you want to make sure that you are paying for college, right, in the most efficient way possible. If you pay for college correctly, you could get a complete college funding refund. Traditionally, there are only 2 ways to pay for college. Number one, you pay cash. Okay, so you use cash flow. You drain your savings. You use a 529 plan to pay for college, or maybe one of these prepaid tuition plans. If you're from Florida, you know what those are. I swear everyone in Florida has a prepaid tuition plan. They had a good one. Okay, but these are the most common ways to just pay cash for college. The second option is to borrow and pay back. Okay, borrow and pay back. You're going to use those Stafford college loans, the actual student loans. You're going to maybe use some Parent Plus loans to pay for college. You're going to use the private loans. You're going to maybe use a home equity loan. But in the reality, no matter what loan you use, in both scenarios, you're not going to have anything left for retirement. Now, usually it's a combination of the two. Most people have a little bit of money saved, and then they plan on borrowing the rest, or they plan on cash flowing some of it and borrowing the rest. But no matter what, in either scenario, if you follow the traditional way of paying for college, you're not going to have anything left for retirement. And that's the problem. Okay. So paying for college and getting all of your money back in retirement is as simple as, as earning a positive spread on your money. Okay. Let me say that again. Paying for college and getting all of your money back in retirement is as simple as earning a positive spread on your money. In other words, you need to earn a greater average return on your money over time and borrow other people's money at a lower rate. Okay? In other words, you want to leverage your money instead of spending it, just like the billionaires are doing with their stocks. They're leveraging their assets and borrowing against it. It's the same thing. Okay? This is true even if you have a high school senior and no money saved for college. It's also true if you have college students that you're trying to just, pay as you go, because we have some of these forbearance options where we can use these college loans and these forbearance options to push the payments down the road long enough for us to put a plan like this in place. Okay. So earlier we talked about how if you are going to pay cash for 1 year of college, versus borrow 1 year of college, if they're both 5%, then it's the same, right? Now, let's take this concept and talk about it in a little bit more detail. If we spread that out over 30 years and we borrow the money and don't pay it back for 30 years at 5%, versus take our money that could have earned interest over the next 30 years, it's the same. Okay, we're either going to lose $104,000 of interest over 30 years, or we're going to pay $104,000 of interest over 30 years, right? But what if we could earn 6% over 30 years and use that money as collateral to borrow at 5% over 30 years? Just a 1% positive spread. Think about it like two cars driving down the freeway going from California to New York. By the time they leave the neighborhood, if one car is going 50 miles an hour and the other car is going 60 miles an hour, there's not much of a difference by the time you leave the neighborhood. But by the time you go from California to New York, if one car is going 60 the whole time and the other car is going 50 the whole time, that's a massive difference over time. Okay. In fact, we're talking about $150,000 of interest that you could have earned versus paying $104,000 of interest. That is a difference of $46,000 over 30 years. That is a college funding refund, right? That's a refund. That's getting $46,000 back even after paying for college. Now, that was just 1 year of college. What about 4 years of college? Let's say that we borrow $120,000 versus try to finance ourselves, right? Instead of trying to pay cash or drain our savings or use our cash flow, what if we borrowed the entire cost of college and we started to use our money and save our money, right? With a 1% spread on $120,000, you're talking about $602,000 of interest versus $400,000 of interest. That's huge. That's a full college funding refund. Okay, that's a difference of $186,000. You only contributed $120,000 towards the plan, and now you could get $186,000 back after paying for college, right? Now, so what's the problem with 529 accounts? Well, you're driving down the road, you see this billboard, okay? And the billboard is advertising your state's 529 plan, right? So if your state is advertising the 529 plan, or if you see a commercial on TV, then clearly it must be the best thing to do, right? Well, here are 5 reasons you might want to consider not using a 529 plan. First of all, it counts as an asset on what we call your EFC calculation. Now, we haven't talked about that in this webinar, so you might be wondering, what is your EFC calculation? Well, when you fill out the financial aid forms in October of the senior year, it's going to calculate what we call an expected family contribution number. In other words, it's the number that they expect you to contribute based on your income and assets. And we don't want to, be penalized for saving money for college. So here's the unfortunate thing. The unfortunate thing is that if your neighbor saved for college and you didn't save for college, your neighbor could be penalized and not qualify for as much financial aid because of the money they have in a 529 account. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. Now, some parents say, well, I'm just going to put it in my parents' name or grandparents' name or Uncle Eddie. Well, the problem is that now it's not considered an asset, but once they send the money to the university to pay for college, it's going to count as income for the student, which also hurts your EFC number. So it doesn't work, okay? Now, the third reason you don't want to use a 529 account is that it has to be used for qualified education expense. I had a client once that saved $400,000 into a 529 account, but had no money saved for retirement. His logic was that college was going to come first, retirement was going to come second. So he was going to save for college first. Unfortunately, he lost his job and they had several financial setbacks, and they reached out to me, and they had all of their money in 529 accounts. So the only way to get to it was through, taking the penalties and paying the taxes and things like that. So it's unfortunate, but that happens all the time. So many families have had to drain the kids, college savings in a pickle, when they have a financial setback or they lose a job or whatever the case may be. Okay. And there's, hey, life throws everyone a curveball. Nobody's exempt from it. Okay. Can't be used for a non-traditional education is the fourth reason. This is one of the biggest ones, and here's why. If any of you have younger kids, I don't think you're going to recognize the higher education as we know it today in 10 years from now. The reason is because the cost of college has gone like this, and the average income is about like this. It can't sustain that kind of a difference, okay? We can't have college continuing to go like this and income go like this. It's already at a breaking point. That's why we're talking about these huge numbers, okay? So the reality of it is something's got to give. I don't know if the private sector is going to come out with certifications where you could go get certified as a marketing guru, or maybe you could be a computer programmer and you could get certified, but it's not through a traditional university. But you go through some company that teaches you how to be a computer programmer, and then you go off to get a job using your certificate, right? We're seeing a lot of that kind of stuff. So there's going to be changes in education over the next 10 years. So you want to be able to pay for any education, not just a traditional education, okay? The last and final reason, and the biggest reason why you shouldn't use a 529 plan, is because you are required to spend it. That's what it was designed for. It interrupts the compounding interest. I had a client once that said, why don't you like 529 accounts? He's like, I've got an awesome 529 account. My 529 account has been earning about 8% interest. And I said, wow, that's unfortunate. He said, what do you mean? 8% is a great interest rate. And I said, yeah, but you could borrow money to pay for college for less than 8%. So now you're going to be spending your 529 account to pay for college that could have been earning 8%. There's a lost opportunity cost, right? So even though you don't think you're paying interest, you are losing the interest that you could have earned where you could have borrowed it at a lower rate. Okay, something to consider. So what is the new way to save and pay for college if you're not going to use a 529 account? Well, it looks like this. Okay, you're going to use your money. You're going to have your money grow. And I don't care if you're starting from scratch. I don't care if you have a college student already. We're going to start growing our money, and we're going to use our money as collateral to borrow at a lower rate. Okay, there are 3 steps to this. Number 1, uninterrupted compounding interest. We learned this from the billionaires. That's what the billionaires are doing. They have their assets compounding uninterrupted. Do you think, Elon Musk is going to sell his Tesla stock when he could get money from a financial institution for less than what his stock is earning? No. We want uninterrupted compounding interest. Number 2, we want to borrow money at a lower rate. And number 3, we want to earn that positive spread. Remember, it's like 2 cars driving across the country. Okay. So what are we looking for in an ideal retirement scholarship strategy account? Okay. There are characteristics and benefits that you're going to want to look for when creating the ideal college funding plan. First of all, you want your money to grow tax deferred. So that means that you're not paying capital gains every year. Because if you pay capital gains tax, that money that is going to a tax is not compounding interest. You want to access your money tax-free. You want to deduct the money that is going into the account off your taxes. You want a competitive rate of return. You want low fees. You want high contribution limits. For example, like a Roth IRA, there's a limit on how much you can put in every year. You want to be able to put in as much as you want. All right. You don't want it to increase your EFC number. So if you're saving money for college, you don't want to be penalized, right? You want to be able to have collateral opportunities. What does that mean? It means you want to be able to use your account as collateral to borrow against. You want to be able to have guaranteed loan options. You don't want to have to qualify, right? You don't want to fill out an application, have you run your credit. You want guaranteed loan options. You want unstructured loan payments. How would you like to be able to borrow money to pay for college and not have a loan payment? You could pay it back if you wanted to, or you don't have to. It's an unstructured loan payment. You would obviously want liquidity, use, and control of your money along the way. What happens if you have an emergency between now and college, or while your kids are in college? You would obviously want access to your money without a penalty, right? You would probably want your money to be safe from lawsuits, creditors, bankruptcies, okay? My guess is if you're creating your wish list of ideal characteristics and benefits, you would probably not want your money to lose when the market crashes. So we call it no market losses, right? And any other additional benefits that might be available. So you have three options that I'm going to talk about. Number one, we have the stock market option using margin loans. This is what a lot of the billionaires are doing, or in other words, it's one of the options that a lot of the billionaires are doing. If you have a stock portfolio with a brokerage firm like Fidelity or Charles Schwab or somebody like that, you can actually use your stock portfolio as collateral to take out what we call a margin loan. Now, that allows your assets to continue to compound interest, and it allows you to borrow money from the brokerage firm. Here are some of the benefits you're going to get. You're going to get tax-deferred growth if you don't sell your stocks. Generally speaking, a taxable brokerage account does not grow tax-deferred. But if you're allowing that money to grow, and you're not selling the stock, you could call it tax-deferred growth. You also can't access money out of a taxable brokerage account tax-free unless you borrow the money. That's kind of a way of getting the money tax-free, right? It's going to get a competitive rate of return in a brokerage account. The fees are going to be low depending on who you pay to manage your money. If your financial advisor is charging you 3%, then it might be a little higher on the fee side. If you're managing your own money, it might be lower, okay? Higher contribution limits. I mean, you could have unlimited contribution limits. You could use your money as collateral, like I said, and there are guaranteed loan options. You can get these margin loans, so you have liquidity, use, and control. So not bad. 7 out of 14, not bad. Okay. Some of the considerations. The amount available is typically half. It's kind of a kicker. If you're saving all this money into a stock portfolio, you can only borrow half of it typically. Amount available can change subject to federal regulations. A decline in the underlying stock portfolio could trigger what we call a margin call. A margin call is where the brokerage account says, hey, pay up. I want you to pay your loan up. All right. Now, if they call the loan due and you have to pay off the loan, then that would require some sort of a cash deposit or sales of your stock portfolio, right? So that means that you could do that in a depressed market, because a lot of times when the market crashes, that's when you're losing your collateral, and that's when the brokerage accounts, or that's when your brokerage companies get nervous, and that's when they call the loan due. That means that you're selling your stocks when it's low. You're supposed to sell high, right? Not low. So this is, a negative. Margin calls could trigger a capital gain on the sale of those stocks, okay? And loan rates are usually tied to some, like the LIBOR, and can fluctuate. In other words, it's a variable loan. Now, the second option is using real estate. I call it the real estate option. Cool. So once again, let's see if you're still with me in the chat here. Imagine with me that you have this amazing piece of real estate on a beach somewhere. Maybe it's a condo on the beaches of Florida that was inherited from your great grandparents, and it's been passed down from generation, and it's completely paid for. And because it's on the beach, it's been averaging about 7% a year. It's a great asset. It didn't even drop during the, recession of 2008. This asset is pretty steady at 7%. but now you've got to pay for college and you don't want to borrow any money. So should you sell this house so that you could pay cash for college? Because remember, that's the noble thing to do, right? No, maybe not, right? Or should you borrow the money from the bank and leave this asset compounding? Take out a home equity line of credit, for example. What do you think? Borrow from the bank? Or do you think you should sell your house? What do you think? Put it in the chat box. All right, once again, don't sell, borrow, okay? Borrow from the bank, obvious, borrow, okay? Okay, I'm glad you're still with me. Okay, is this making sense? Okay, awesome. This is kind of a visual. Here you have this asset that is growing in value over time, and you are using it as collateral to borrow against, okay? Make sense? Now, what are some of the benefits? Once again, it grows tax deferred as long as you're not selling it. Sometimes there could be capital gains depending on when you sell your real estate. You have access to it tax-free if you take out the loans. Okay, so there are some scenarios there. If you get like a mortgage, a second mortgage, or a cash out refinance, there might be some hefty fees. But if you take out just a home equity line of credit, the fees might not be as high. High contribution limits, you could go buy you a condo that's worth $1 million if you wanted to. And then you could use that as collateral. So 5 out of the 14, not bad, right? 5 out of the 14. Okay. Now let's look at some of the considerations of a home equity line of credit, because you could do a cash out refinance, you could do a second mortgage, or you could do a home equity line of credit, which is what we would recommend. The home equity line of credit must be granted by the bank, or by the banks, and are conditional upon credit worthiness and bank liquidity. The home equity line of credits may be revoked at any time at the discretion of the bank if no loans are outstanding. So we saw that in 2008, where the banks just took away people's line of credits because they were worried about the house going down in value and not being worth enough to have collateral to cover that line of credit. Most home equity line of credits have call provisions, just like a margin call. The bank could say, it's in the fine print, all right, and it doesn't happen very often, but they could say that they want you to pay the loan up, okay? Given the fluctuation of housing valuations, the amount of equity available for some borrowers could be insufficient for their needs. So let's say that you were planning on using a home equity line of credit to pay for your kids' college in 10 years from now. And then 10 years from now, the market drops and the value of the house is half. Now you might not be able to borrow enough to pay for college. So obviously some downsides there. Now, the home equity line of credits generally have caps on the amount of available credit. So that's the other thing to consider. Okay. Now, the third option is called the insurance savings account and insurance loans option. Now, it looks like this. Okay. Your money is going to be in what we call this insurance savings account, and you're going to be borrowing money from the insurance company. Now, this is not whole life insurance, and this is not term insurance. Now, for some of you who are concerned about using life insurance as an investment, there was this post on one of the Facebook groups that I'm in where this person said, is anyone investing in life insurance? If so, which one is best to maximize monies? Well, this poor person just got, plummeted with all these responses. Buy term and invest the difference. Selling it makes you the most money, and only term until the kids are on their own, or I would only consider term insurance, or life insurance is not an investment. You're going to hear that over and over and over. And this is what most people think when they think about using insurance. However, this is very, very different than what you're used to, or what you've heard of, or what you've maybe experienced in the past. In fact, Tony Robbins, when he wrote his book called Money Master the Game, he went around and interviewed 50 of the brightest minds in the world when it comes to money. And his book is quite thick, by the way, talks about what he learned from interviewing all these bright minds. In chapter 5, he talks about secrets of the ultra wealthy, like the billionaires that we were talking about earlier, that you can use as well. In fact, he talks about how there was a mystery billionaire that buys a record-breaking $201 million in life insurance. Why in the world would a billionaire buy life insurance? Wouldn't his kids be just fine if he passed away prematurely? Or was the media missing the point? Okay, believe it or not, the ultra wealthy do indeed buy astronomical amounts of life insurance, but it's not even the billionaires that buy the most. Okay, the people who buy the most are the large corporations like Walmart and Wells Fargo. In fact, Wells Fargo's balance sheet showed 18 billion of its tier 1 capital in life insurance cash value as of 2014. Okay, now he goes on to say that I was introduced to this tool by two of the wealthiest individuals I know. You could also go to bankdirector.com and search for what is bank-owned life insurance, or they also refer to it as BOLI. So if the large corporations and if these billionaires are using life insurance, then how could we use it to pay for college? Because it's very confusing. Everyone is saying that life insurance is a bad investment, but yet these large corporations and these banks are using it. What is the difference? Well, first of all, let's talk about the benefits, and then I'm going to show you the right way and the wrong way to do this, okay? So you get tax deferred growth on life insurance. That's why the billionaires are doing it. That's why they're calling it the rich person's Roth IRA. You get tax-free access to the money in life insurance because you use a couple of different loan options, which are tax-free. It does not allow you to deduct your contributions. That's the only one that it doesn't allow you to do. It gives you a competitive return. We have clients that have gotten up to 20% returns. I think 21.25% is the highest I've seen with my clients, okay? So that's a pretty competitive return. 20% returns in a life insurance product, pretty cool, huh? Low fees if done correctly, and I'm going to show you how to do it correctly in just a second. But low fees, high contribution limits. My largest client puts in $735,000 a year. So you could have some pretty high contribution limits. It doesn't increase your EFC number. So you could save for college without being penalized. Pretty cool, huh? There are collateral opportunities. You can use your life insurance cash value as collateral. You can get a guaranteed loan against your life insurance. You don't have to qualify. Unstructured loan payments. The insurance company doesn't care if you make a payment on the loans. In fact, you could pay it back when you died if you wanted to. You have liquidity, use, and control of your money. In most states, it's safe from lawsuits, creditors, and bankruptcies. No market losses, guaranteed to never lose. Okay. The worst you could ever get is a 0. So you're going to go anywhere from a 0 to 20%. The average is around 7. No market losses and additional benefits like the life insurance. So in this example, if you were to pass away, there's a life insurance death benefit that would help cover college. So it's like a college funding backup plan, which is pretty cool. So you actually get 13 out of the 14 benefits with life insurance. So why isn't everyone doing it? Well, this is how you do it correctly. In order to do this like the billionaires and the large corporations, you want the majority of your money going towards the cash value because you can't pay for college with life insurance. You can use your cash value as collateral to pay for college, but you can only use the life insurance when you die. So it's not the life insurance that you're using, it's the cash value, which means that you want to buy the smallest amount of life insurance. And that's how you get the low fees, because the fees are associated with the life insurance, not the cash value. Okay. So if you buy a small amount of insurance, your fees are small, but that also means that the commissions are small. That's why nobody is telling everybody about this, because there's not really a market for it. Nobody's making a bunch of commissions to sell something that looks like this because there's no commissions on all that cash value. Okay. So if you want all of these benefits, 13 out of the 14 benefits, you want to maximize the cash value. But the cash value is also part of your death benefit. If you were to die, your family would get your cash value and they would get the life insurance. That's also a common misconception. Some people think that you only get that life insurance piece and not the cash value piece if you die. That is not true. Okay. You get both if you were to die, or you don't get anything because you're dead, but your family, your beneficiaries would get both if you were to pass away. Unfortunately, this is not what most people have experienced. And so this is, something that just you don't see very often, but this is what the billionaires and the large corporations are doing. So the problem is that this is what most people have experienced. If you've ever had a bad experience, maybe you bought some life insurance in the past, or maybe you know somebody that bought some life insurance in the past, and maybe they thought that they were getting all of those benefits. Well, the reality of it is that most of their money was probably going towards lots of life insurance. In other words, they probably bought like a huge life insurance policy where they're paying lots of fees and the insurance agent made lots of commissions, okay? Now, if you were to die the next day, this is going to be better because your cash value takes time to build up. So if you bought one of these policies and died the next day, this is going to be better from a death benefit standpoint, but not long-term if your goal is to build up all of this cash value to use while you're alive, okay? So if you want low fees, you need to buy a small amount of life insurance. Now, you're still going to get all of the benefits, but you're going to get all of the benefits on this much money, okay? You're not going to get the benefits on very much money. So most of your money is going to go towards paying for lots of life insurance and paying high fees, and it's going to pay lots of commissions. That's just the reality. That's how it works, okay? Is this making sense? Okay? Does this make sense on the right way and the wrong way? Because it can be very confusing. Some people jump off this webinar and go on to Google and start, searching for life insurance as an investment, and they get all this conflicting information. And that's because this is what most people have experience with. But the billionaires and the large corporations, this is what they are doing. And this is the correct way to do it. Okay. All right. So now that we know the correct way to do it, let's learn how we can use this to pay for college and get all of your money back. So here we have your cash value. Okay. You're going to build up your cash value $100 a month, $1,000 a month, 700,000 a year, whatever you can afford. You're going to start building up your cash value just like any other savings vehicle. Okay. Then you're going to use the cash value as collateral, and you're going to borrow the money from the insurance company to pay for college. They're going to give you an interest-only loan with non-structured payments. That means that you don't have to make a payment on these loans. You could just let these life insurance grow over time at 5%, and your money could grow at maybe 7%. Okay. You don't even have to use this just for college. You could use this for, a wedding. I've got 4 girls, right? I've got 4 girls. I can use this for a wedding. I can use this to buy a car. But, if you could go get a car loan for 1 or 2%, that might make more sense. But sometimes, interest rates are not always low. Sometimes interest rates are high. So maybe borrowing money from the insurance company makes the most sense. It just depends, right? Okay. Now, here are the 2 steps. Start saving into the insurance savings account, which is also known as cash value, and then pay for college using the insurance loans. So here's your visual. Okay, this is the visual. The green represents your insurance company savings account, also known as the cash value. It's going to average around 7% typically. Okay. So it's going to grow at 7%, guaranteed to never lose, right? An average of 7. And then you're going to borrow money from the insurance company to pay for college for 4 years or for 8 years or for all 5 of your kids. In fact, I talked to a client earlier today that has 8 kids. You could use this for 8 kids, okay? Then you don't have to pay back those insurance loans. They're just going to accrue at 5%. But remember, you're either going to pay interest or you're going to give up the ability to earn interest. So is it okay if your loans accrue at 5% as long as you're earning 7% on average? Sure, absolutely. That's exactly what the billionaires are doing with their stock portfolio. And we learned from Tony Robbins that the billionaires are also using this as well. Okay, so the billionaires and the large corporations are using life insurance and stocks and real estate. They're using all of these strategies. Okay, this one just happens to have, the least amount of variables. So this one works the best. Okay, now what if I have a high school student or even a college student and don't have one of these insurance company savings accounts built up, right? Well, then you have 3 steps. Remember how we talked about the college loans earlier? We're going to use the college loans now. So we're going to start saving money into this savings vehicle, into this insurance company savings vehicle. And then we are going to use the college loans to pay for college. Now, you might want to use the college loans anyway. Even if you have young kids and you start saving now, you still may want to consider those college loans in the future because of what we learned earlier, right? Those college loans, remember, you can defer the payments until graduation, right? 6 months after graduation even. And you can even file for a forbearance option where you defer the payments 12 months after graduation. And you can even do that a few times. So even if you have a senior in college getting ready to graduate, we could still use this plan. Or even if you have kids that have already graduated college and you're paying those really high college loan payments, we could use these forbearance options to postpone those college loan payments while you build up one of these plans. Okay, so let me reiterate the fact that it is not too late to start one of these plans, whether you have young kids, high school students, or kids that have already graduated college. We can still work with you in all 3 scenarios. It's never too late. Now, what about those of you who already have a bunch of money in 529 accounts or all other college savings plans? Well, we need to discuss the strategies of possibly migrating that money over into a plan like this and trying to minimize the penalties and taxes and things like that. And in a lot of cases, it can still make sense to use your existing, savings. So I have lots of clients that have reached out to me with plenty of money saved for college, but they want to implement these strategies so they can get a full refund on the cost of college. Because the second you drain your college savings and pay cash for college, the money's gone, right? Okay, so 3 steps instead of 2. So it looks like this. You start saving, and then that money's going to compound the rest of your life. Then you're going to take out college loans to pay for college. And then you're going to use the insurance loans to pay back the college loans. And then we never have to pay back the insurance loans if we don't want to. Okay, that's the visual. From now until 30 years from now, that's the visual. Now, what if you're, in your 70s and you're talking about your grandkids here? Well, then we could put the insurance on you. Or we could even put the insurance on the kids as well. Lots of options. So you're not too old and it's never too late. Okay. Now, word of caution. Not all insurance products can average a 6 to 8% and higher returns. Not all insurance companies allow you to borrow their money at a fixed 5%. Some have variable rate loans that can go as high as 15%. Insurance agents may want to sell you too much life insurance, which results in less cash value, okay? And remember, high fees equals high commissions. So you got to make sure it is done correctly. Now, the two most common questions that I get all of the time: why isn't everyone doing this? And why hasn't everyone told me about this? Well, I kind of talked about it earlier. The problem is that most of the financial industry works for a brokerage firm selling stocks or bonds, mutual funds, anything in the, basically they work for Wall Street. Okay. So that's why they sell 529 plans, mutual funds, IRAs, 401ks. And that's how I started my career. When I got into the financial industry, I got fully licensed and I was a fiduciary and I did assets under management. I did mutual funds. I sold 401ks and 529 accounts. And I got paid a commission or a percentage of all of the money that I had invested. Okay. That's where most of the financial industry is focused. Okay. They're not focused on selling insurance products. Now, the insurance industry sells life insurance for the big death benefits because that's what pays the big commissions. So if you've ever met with the typical insurance agent, they're going to try to give you a huge insurance policy in case you die and you need to replace your income, or in case you need to pay off your house and all that kind of stuff. Now, let me be clear. I am not saying that you shouldn't buy lots of life insurance. You should protect your family. I have a $2 million term policy to protect my wife and 5 kids. Okay. But that's completely different than what I'm talking about here. All right. For this particular strategy, I'm talking about the minimum amount of insurance to maximize the cash value. Okay. So remember, it doesn't pay lots of commissions. So that's why there's really not a market for it. And that's why typically only the billionaires and the large corporations are doing it. Now, if you go back and ask your financial advisor, how this works, they're not going to typically, anyway, most of them are not going to understand exactly how this is how this works. Okay. So just a couple words of caution there. Now, all right. Okay. So I know that was a lot of information, but does this make you think a little bit differently about how you're going to pay for college? Go ahead and put it in the chat box, right? Does this make you think a little bit differently? Yes or no? All right. Has this kind of opened your mind to a little bit different thought process when it comes to financing college? All right. Lots of yeses here. All right. Perfect. Now, do you mind if I take just a few minutes to show you a program that I have put together to tie all of this together? Because I know I've given you lots of information and I'm sure lots of you want to know how you can get some help and how we can kind of tie all this together into one plan. So are we cool? Give me a thumbs up. Yes, we've got amazing. Yes, thanks. Good feedback. Excellent. Thank you. All right, let's talk about this program and this process that I've called the College Funding Solution. Okay. So this College Funding Solution program is everything you need to master college funding and avoid financial mistakes. Okay. So here's how it works. We work one-on-one between, my team and I. We're going to work with you one-on-one. And in step 1, we're going to give you our college funding education trainings. This is going to teach you how to reduce the cost of college, how to maximize the financial aid, the FAFSA tips and tricks, the award appeals process, all right, and understanding all the pros and cons of all your college funding options. Obviously, I don't have enough time in a webinar to teach you everything there is to know about margin loans and real estate investing and this life insurance. Obviously, there's lots of details that I don't have time to get into, but we have all of those trainings in our membership area, as well as all of the trainings on how to reduce the cost of college and everything else. Okay. We have tons of training videos that you will have instant access to be able to start dissecting some of this information if you're one of those that likes to learn on your own. Now, you're also going to be working with us one-on-one as well, but we also have lots of these training videos where you can learn it on your own. Some of you are the do-it-yourselfer type. And if you are, that's great. We have lots of training videos here as well. Lots of case studies. Okay, I'm going to break this down into lots of case studies so you can see exactly how this works. We're going to get into the numbers. For those of you who like more details, we're going to get into the numbers in all these case studies and show you exactly how to do this. This is part of our program that retails for $697. Okay, so you're going to get all of these training videos, which retails for $697. Then in step 2, we're going to focus on the college loan planning. This is where we're going to talk about some college loan counseling. We're going to talk about which loans are going to be the best for your family and which loans should you take out in the beginning. And then once the kids graduate, which type of loan program should we be implementing at the end? So who should we take the loans out on? The students or the parents? Which parent should we take the loans out on? All right. Which strategy is the best for getting, the best bang for our buck? We want to be able to pay back pennies on the dollar, right? So we're going to look at forbearance options, income-based repayment plans, and the public service loan forgiveness. There's so many programs that we're going to analyze to figure out which one is best. So this is kind of a 2-part. This is when the kids are getting ready to take on the loans to pay for college, and this is after they've graduated as well. Now, we typically charge $497 just for college loan counseling. So, and there's lots of companies that will do college loan counseling, and the going rate is about $497. So that's the retail value. So total of $1194. Okay. Now, step 3 is you're going to calculate the cost of college. There are so many families that have no clue how much college is really going to cost. In fact, we actually built a lot of our house ourselves. My wife and I, we'd spend late nights doing finish work and flooring and all sorts of stuff. And we had a family member a friend stop by earlier today, picking our brain because they're going to start building their own house. And they're creating their wish list, right, about what they want their house to look like. And then you start to really get down to the nitty gritty and you realize, whoa, this is expensive. And the same thing happens when you're paying for college. You want your kids to be able to go to their dream school. They've worked so hard. You want them to be able to go to that school they've always dreamed of. But then all of a sudden you realize how expensive it really is. Okay. So we need to calculate the estimated cost of college with inflation for each of your kids. Now, I don't care if you have kids in college or if you have kids that are in elementary school, we still need to plan with inflation and everything else. We need to plan on what college could cost. Remember, we want to plan for the worst, hope for the best, right? Now, we want to discuss the parents' responsibilities because we want to know what you're going to help pay for and what the kids are going to be responsible for, because we need to, plan accordingly, right? Now we want to estimate what these loan payments are going to look like, because that's going to tell us what we need to start saving right now. If college loans are going to cost us $1,000 a month in the future, we've got to start saving now to get a head start on those college loans, right? Now we need to discuss the estimated college savings that we're going to need based on how old our kids are and everything else. We're going to use this program that we've developed. This is a proprietary calculator that allows us to figure out how many kids you have, what the custom inflation rate is that we want to use. We're going to break it down per kids. So even that client that has 8 kids, we could put all 8 kids on here. We could plan what the inflation rate is going to be and what we think the college costs are going to be for each year that the kids are in school. Maybe they're going to go to graduate school. Maybe they're going to go to medical school. We can put all of that in here. And we can see kind of a breakdown of each year that they're in school, and we can customize each year. So maybe you have enough college savings to pay for 1 year of college. So we're going to use some 529 money towards year 1 of college. Or maybe you have Uncle Eddie. Uncle Eddie is going to give you some money towards college. We can put that in here as well. Or maybe you have a scholarship that only applies to 1 year of college. You can include that here too. Okay, so that's going to give us a breakdown of what the loans are going to look like, assuming that we're going to borrow a lot of the money for college. This is going to show us what these college loans are going to look like, what the estimated loan payment is, right? We can play around with different lengths of loans. We could look at a 10-year loan, a 30-year loan. We could play with interest rates. We can really kind of customize your particular plan. And we can play around with what we think we might be able to start saving to get a head start on this plan as well. And we're going to give you a nice little report that's going to kind of break down each of the kids and what the future loan payments might look like and everything else. Okay. That is a $197 retail value for that particular consultation. We're up to $13.91 in retail value so far. Now in phase 4, this is the meat. Okay, phase 4 is when we're really going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to get dirty as we build you a detailed college savings and funding plan. Whether you have young kids and you're trying to plan for the future, or whether you have kids that have already graduated with loans and we need to include some college loan strategies, right? We're going to discuss all of the college savings and funding options. Okay, we're going to compare multiple college funding plans and all of the pros and cons in a lot more detail. We're going to compare college funding plan fees and taxes. We're going to look at implementing your college funding plan. Yes, we will help you to implement this particular plan. We'll help you so that it is done correctly. Could you do it on your own? Yeah, you can do it on your own, but we've seen it done incorrectly way too many times. So in an ideal world, we want to make sure we help you to make sure it's done correctly. Plus, most people don't have access to the right products. Okay. Now, this is just a sample of the report that we're going to give you. It's like a 20+ page report that is going to break down all of your college funding options, right? Should you use your home equity? Should you use your 529 to pay for college? Or should you use your 529 towards one of these plans? Let's break it all down and let the numbers tell us what makes the most sense. 2 + 2 is always going to be 4, right? So if you were to pay a fee-based planner to put together just a college funding plan, you could pay $1,500 for something like that, right? So grand total for the college funding training videos, the college loan consultations, the college cost calculator consultation, and the college funding blueprint is a retail value of $28.91. Now, who is this program for? Well, this program is for those of you who have younger kids and are just starting to save for college, those who have high school students and nothing saved for college, those who have plenty of money saved for college but would like to leverage it to use for retirement, those who already have students in college, and those who already have students who have graduated and have existing student loans. In other words, to everyone who thinks that it's not too late, it's not, okay? If you are worried about the cost of college and you don't want to sacrifice your retirement, then we can help. Okay, so remember, you can figure all this out for yourself, reading books, searching online, so forth, while also managing everything else on your plate, or we could hold your hand through the entire process. So if all this did was help your kids get the education of their dreams, reduce the cost of college, have peace of mind that you didn't pay more than necessary, make sure you don't make any financial mistakes, get a full college funding refund, even if it just did one of those, what would it be worth, right? Think of that for a minute. Think about that. We are talking about 100,000, 200,000, maybe even 300,000 per kid. You know, what would it be worth if you made sure that you didn't make any mistakes? Well, the total retail value is $28.91. The discounted price is actually $9.97. That's what we normally charge, is $9.97. But we are doing a very unique, very limited time special where you could get started with everything that I just explained for $297. That's right. I know it's ridiculous for everything that you get, but it's only $297 for a very limited time. Okay. For those of you who are on this webinar, watching this webinar, maybe you're watching the replay of this webinar. Even if you're watching the replay of this webinar, if you can go to this link or click on the button, there should be a button on your page, on the page somewhere. If you can click on the link or type in this link, and if you can, actually complete the purchase, then you get this for $297. Okay. So that is what we are currently offering as a special discounted rate. Now, I've done a lot of these live seminars, and Regina said, it's a whole new way of looking at paying for college, plus having something left over for retirement. I have a child heading to college next month. Wish I would have known about this sooner, but I'm getting started with this strategy now. Oh, by the way, would somebody type in collegefundingsolution.com/order? For those of you who need to get off the webinar, I want to make sure you have the link in the comments there so you can just click on it, okay? I also want to give you my favorite quote because I've talked a little bit about opportunity cost, and my favorite quote is don't miss the opportunity of a lifetime because you didn't seize it during the lifetime of the opportunity. Elder Jeffrey Holland. I love this quote because I promise you this is a very limited time offer. And if you don't take advantage of it now, it's going to be available later, but it'll be available later at the $997 price. So if you want it at the $297 price, don't wait. Okay. So go to collegefundingsolution.com/order. Now, once again, just a recap of what you're getting. You're getting the training videos for a retail value of $697. You're getting the college loan consultation for $497 retail value, the college cost calculator, $197 retail value, and the college funding blueprint, $1,500 retail value. All retail value $2,891, normally $997 for $297 today. So go to collegefundingsolution.com/order. Okay, so Lisa says, my husband and I are both so thankful we found Lance and his retirement scholarship strategy. Not long ago, I would describe us as wholly unprepared for both college and retirement. Fast forward ahead less than a year, and we can honestly say that for the first time in our lives, we have a solid financial plan to cover any and all college expenses and our retirement. Okay. There's a huge need for this info. You were speaking to and educating one of the most financially sophisticated audiences in the country. I thought I was informed, but obviously not enough. Vilma says, I am so glad we found the retirement scholarship strategy to help our kids fund our kids' college. We had not been able to save due to life circumstances. Now I feel secure that my son will be able to finish college without student loans. Well, obviously, college loans are going to be a part of it. Now, let's see here. Karen says the information Lance Morgan shared was engaging, made us think differently. All right. Lila said, very helpful. Working with Lance is easing a lot of our worries and wonder. Deanna says, great information. I have a 5th grader and I'm glad I got the information when I did. And Linda says, definitely has great information for those those parents worried about the money it's going to cost for the kids to go to college. All right. So once again, here's a recap of everything that you get for the $2,897 or $2,891 retail value for $297 today. So go out to that link. All right, collegefundingsolution.com/order and get started. All right. Woo, that was a lot of information. Thank you so much for being with us. We are now to the Q&A part of our webinar. So I've been glancing over at some of the comments as they've been coming in. I hope that I've covered a lot of your questions as I've been going. I'm horrible at multitasking, so if I did miss a question, then I apologize. You can email me at lance@collegefundingeducation.com. But I'm going to, hopefully cover most of your questions now and kind of as we were going. So I'm going to scroll back up here. Now is the time to go ahead and get started. I'm going to hang out on the webinar for a little bit to make sure that nobody has any technical difficulties getting started and placing their order. So if you're placing your order and you have any difficulties, just put it in the comment section here. So I'll hang out here for a minute. Also, I'm going to kind of peruse through the comments and the questions to make sure we've answered a lot of the questions as we have been going. So, all right, just kind of scrolled back through here and all right, yeah, lots of comments as we were going. So thanks for your feedback. I appreciate all of the interaction in the comments. That was very helpful for all of you too. Hopefully you could see each other's comments on there. All right, yeah, opportunity cost. It sounds like the concept of opportunity cost is obviously hitting home. Now, also, I would love it as we're going through questions, I would also love your feedback. So put in the comments what you've gained out of this and what your big aha moment was. I would love to know your big aha moment. Okay, lots of comments here about borrowing. Okay, all right. All right, okay. That's crazy good. All right, lots of comments. This is such a good information. I really needed the breakdown on these accounts. Perfect. Borrow, HELOC, borrow from the bank. Yes. Okay. What are the options under which forbearances are allowed? So it kind of depends on your financial situation, but man, based on medical conditions, job loss, or just financial struggles, to be honest with you, the government seems to be pretty lenient on the forbearance options. So if you just give them a good reason as to why you can't afford to make those payments right now, maybe you're starting a new business or something like that. It just kind of depends on your situation, but they tend to be pretty lenient on what they allow for you to, defer those payments using forbearance. Okay. Will we have access to the recording of this? Hopefully, assuming that the recording worked and assuming technology did us a favor here, then hopefully we'll have a recording for you. Some of you might be watching the recording. If you're watching the recording, you can still put in your comments and your questions, and it is sent to me through email, or you can just email me directly. All right. Let's see here. Let me scroll down. A lot of comments. Amazing. Thanks for the feedback. This college process is overwhelming. I need one-on-one help. Yes, it can definitely be very overwhelming. Okay, collegefundingsolution.com/order. Thanks for putting that in the comments there. All right, Jeffrey says, if we have some money saved up, does it make sense to take out government loans just for the option to use forbearance, deferment, or the potential for forgiveness if I'm a public employee? Yes. Yeah, in most cases, yeah. If you can hang on to your money while you're using somebody else's money, you have the money, right? So remember, debt is when you borrow money that you can't pay back. That's debt. If you choose to use somebody else's money, right, but you have the money, then it's not debt, because you could always take your money and pay off those loans anytime you want. So stay in position and control of your money as long as possible, as long as it makes financial sense. Okay. I did not realize that you could extend the borrowing time on loans, the deferment. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who are trying to make your loan payments as you're going, you can defer those payments. Okay. All right. The spread on your money and opportunity cost were great. All right. Perfect. Thanks for your feedback. All right. Is the forbearance on student loan affect the credit score on the student and parent? No, you can use the forbearance options without affecting your credit. Yep. Great question. Thanks. All right. Now we also have a Q&A section over here. All right. What are the pros and cons for parent and student loans? Which is better option in comparison? Okay, so hopefully we covered that in detail. That may have been a question before we got to that section. So you can always go back and watch the replay and fast forward to that section if you want to watch that again. All right, we have one in college and one heading there in about 3 weeks. Wife is currently unemployed and collecting unemployment. She obviously can't apply for Parent Plus loan without a job. This occurred after we filed our FAFSA. There are there strategies for us. So there are, typically if you have more than one parent, you want to use whichever parent makes the most sense. But if one parent can't can't get approved for the Parent Plus loan, then the other parent would want to apply for it. If neither parent can apply or qualify for the Parent Plus loan, then you might have to use private loans where you get a cosigner like a grandparent or something like that. And also, if you as the parents can't get approved for the Direct Plus loans, then the kids can borrow a little bit more under their name. So there's a little bit more to that if the parents can't get approved. Okay. Insurance options sounds great. But if you are older, late 50s, and or have health issues, blood pressure, etc., what does it impact that option? Okay, great question. So I've been doing this for a lot of years, and I've only had about a handful of people that didn't qualify for the insurance part. So even if you do have some blood pressure issues or some cholesterol issues, that's okay, because we're not looking for the best rating. We're just looking for an approval. Because remember, we're trying to get the minimum amount of insurance for the maximum amount of cash value. So we're not really buying this to be able to get tons of insurance at a low discounted rate, right? So as long as you can get approved for the life insurance, that's really all that matters. Okay. What happens if I already have a 529 account? Like I said, lots of families, once they start really understanding the impact of these 529 accounts, they look for alternative options. And I'm not going to lie, it's kind of complicated to discuss your pros and cons as to whether or not you should use the 529 money to pay for college, or whether you should use the 529 money to put towards one of these other plans. And there are ways to kind of minimize the penalties and the taxes on that. But that is something that we would want to work together with you and your accountant and things like that to see what makes the most sense. All right. Does the 297 program apply for more than one kid? Yes. So we are going to help all of you, right? No matter how many kids you have, for the 297. So like I said, the appointment that I had earlier today had 8 kids. If you have 8 kids, we will put together, one college funding plan for all 8 of your kids. All right. So thank you. A great question on that. All right. How long will this offer be available? Great question. So this is a limited time option or limited time offer, and it depends on how many people sign up. So my phone is already buzzing, so I know people have been signing up. So depending on how many people sign up will depend on how long we leave this offer available, because my team and I can only work with so many people at a time. So I want to give you the one-on-one attention that you deserve. So once we're kind of maxed out, then we'll take down the page and it won't be available. So if you go to this page and it says, sorry, no longer available, then it's no longer available. But if you go to this page and it allows you to complete the order, then it's available. Also, one other thing that I was going to say, I just went blank. Somebody asked, I glanced over here. Somebody asked what happens next. Once you get started, once you sign up, for those of you who are signing up right now, I am going to email you a link to our calendar, because the first thing that you're going to want to do is book an appointment with us, like a getting started appointment, and we will make sure that we get started working with you on this plan right away. You will also receive emails, right, from us for your login to our membership area. So remember, we have a ton of these resources inside of our membership area, and you're going to get a login access to our membership area, so you can start watching some of these training videos even before you meet with us, okay? In fact, you'll even get access to the calculator, so you can start playing with the calculator and everything else. So you can get a jump start, and a lot of this you can do on your own if you're one of those do-it-yourself type. But you'll also get a link to our calendar to get started working with us right away, okay? All right, so North Carolina has a CFNC, which runs the 529. They also offer their version of the Parent Plus loan at a lower interest rate and no origination fee. Would this be an option or still go the federal route? You would want to compare. I've had that question before, actually. You would want to compare all the options. So it kind of depends. It depends on which option that you're going for and whether or not they have that option available. So it's kind of, I hate to say it depends because that sounds like a cop-out, but it really just depends on the situation and whether they have the right loan program that you're wanting to get. Some families, they're just going to want to refinance those loans at the lowest interest rate they can get and pay them off as fast as they can. It totally depends on your situation. So that's why we would want to kind of run the numbers and decide which makes the most sense. Okay. Very good. You said with a cash value life insurance policy that beneficiaries get both the cash value and death benefit. Really? Yes, absolutely. Okay. When you buy a life insurance policy, there is an insurance component and there is a cash value component, right? The cash value component you can use while you're alive, and the insurance component is only for when you die. But when you die, they're going to give you the insurance plus the cash value minus whatever outstanding loans that you have. So if you have a bunch of loans outstanding, then the insurance company pays themselves back the loans that you owe them, and then your family gets what's left. So it's kind of like dying with a mortgage, okay? If you die with a mortgage, the bank is going to pay off the mortgage and give your beneficiaries what's left, right? Same thing with the life insurance. Now, sometimes that may not be the case in other policies, but in this particular policy, you are going to get the cash value, right? And you are going to get the insurance if you were to die, which means that if you died early on, you're not going to get a bunch of money because you bought a small amount of insurance and you're still trying to build up your cash value. But if you died later on, a lot of your money might be in cash value, so the payout is going to be bigger, right? So it just kind of all depends on how it's designed. Is it better for a parent or student to borrow a loan? It depends, okay? Generally speaking, you want the students to borrow as much as they can under their name, and then the parents are going to borrow the difference, is a general rule of thumb. But there are some situations where maybe the parent wants to take out all the loans under their name and then qualify for some of these low income repayment plans. So it just kind of depends. As laws or circumstances change in the future, do you continue to provide consultation if the funding solution product is purchased? Absolutely. So when you pay $297 to work with us, okay, you are going to be working with us pretty much forever, because we are going to want to meet with you on an annual basis to review your plan, right? So we're going to basically be like your financial advisors, at least for this component, all right? And we're going to want to make sure that everything is going according to plan. So when we build out your college funding plan, we want to meet every year to make sure that we're on track, right? Because sometimes life throws you a curveball and maybe you're not able to save as much as you wanted to save that year. Okay, so we're going to need to do some course correction. So things like that. Maybe your plan is to save for 10 years, but everything goes better than expected and you could stop after 8 years. Or maybe you planned for 10 and you're going to need to go 15 because everything cost more than you thought it was going to cost. Maybe the kids picked a different school or something. So these plans have to change, or they don't have to change. Sorry. They have to be, they have to be maintained, I guess is the best word. So yes, we will work with you at no additional charge. Correct. All right. Is a minimum limit for the cash value when opening an insurance savings account? No, there's really no minimum. I've set up these plans for $100 a month, and I've set up these plans for over $700,000 a year. So it depends on your situation. However, there is a minimum amount of life insurance that you typically have to buy. It's either $50,000 or $100,000, depending on the company. And so it's not going to work very well for $50 a month, or $25 a month. So I guess there's kind of a minimum. I'll just throw out, $300 to $500 a month. I would say that would be a minimum. If you're not going to do at least $300 to $500 a month into one of these plans, it probably doesn't make the most sense. Yeah. But it all depends, right? It all depends. It depends how young your kids are. I mean, you could start one of these plans on your kids when they're born and throw $50 a month into it. I started these plans on all my kids when they were born. So it just depends on your situation. Okay. All right. So once again, it looks like people are able to make purchases. So that means that the technology at least is working. So I have messages coming in. I'm going to hang out for just a few minutes to make sure nobody has any problems trying to sign up. So if you're trying to sign up and if you have any problems while you're trying to sign up, then I'm going to hang out for a little bit to answer any questions you might have. We can just shoot the breeze, answer any other questions you might have. I don't know, you can ask me how many animals we have or whatever you want to ask me. We have 50 chickens, 2 goats, 2 horses, a cat, 2 cats, dogs. I don't know. I lost track. And 5 kids. It's a farm. It's a funny farm around here. We live in Utah on 6 acres. We've always wanted a big garden. We have about an acre garden with 55 fruit trees. It's a lot of fun. And the theory is that we'd give our kids a lot of things to do and teach them about hard work. So I don't know if it's working or not, but some people ask me why I had 5 kids. I had 5 kids because I knew I was going to screw some of them up, and I wanted to increase my odds that one of them would turn out and let me live with them someday if I needed to. Just kidding. We just wanted a lot of kids. I don't know. My wife comes from a family of 6 kids. I come from 3. There's 3 of us. I have an older sister and a younger sister. So yeah. That's a little bit about myself. Let's see here. Just check some more questions. Oh, looks like we've got more questions coming in. I think, here we go. Would it make sense to lower your 401k contribution in order to fund the insurance plan for this program? Loaded question. All right. That's a great question. One of the common questions that we get is whether or not you should postpone funding your retirement to be able to fund one of these college funding plans. The first thing that I want to say is that this is commonly used for retirement. The client that I have that puts in over $700,000 a year into one of these plans is not doing it for college. The client is in their, they started in their 70s. They were 72. So those of you who think you're too old, this client was 72 years old when they started their plan. And they're the biggest client that I have. And it was for tax savings because they call this the rich person's Roth IRA, right? So think about this from more than just college funding. Paying for college is one example of how to use this. But what's the other big expense that you have in life? Retirement, right? Retirement is a huge expense. So what if you could pay for retirement using somebody else's money at a lower interest rate? Now think about this for a minute. You're borrowing the money in retirement. You could live on you could live on $500,000 a year and qualify for food stamps. Not that you would, because ethically that would not be right, okay? But you could live on these loans during retirement and not pay a penny in taxes. That's what the billionaires are doing, right? The billionaires are living on loans. That's what they're doing, right? They're using their real estate as collateral. They're using their stock portfolio as collateral. They're using their life insurance as collateral, okay? The strategy is more than just paying for college. So I guess to answer your question, yes, I would consider not putting your money towards retirement and putting it towards this plan, because this plan could be used for college and retirement. The only asterisk that I would put in there is if you're getting a company match and depending on the company match. So even if you're getting a company match, it still might be better. Plus, it kind of depends on your goals. You know, I know lots of families that will put their retirement on hold to help their kids with college. I know a lot of families that have a pension, so they're not really as concerned about funding their retirement as they are helping their kids pay for college. So once again, kind of depends on your situation, right? But good, that's a great question, right? Great question. All right, does the insurance savings have to be declared as an asset on the FAFSA? Nope, it doesn't. That's one of the beauties about this. You know, I tell you, like I said, as a father of 5 kids, I've learned all this through desperation more than inspiration. You know, I've wanted to learn every angle I can to, you know, minimize the impact on helping my kids pay for college. And it's unfortunate that families, I mean, I talk to families all the time that have $300,000-$400,000 in 529 accounts. And now they don't qualify for any financial aid. And you might say, well, I have a 6-figure income. I'm not going to qualify for financial aid anyway. Don't rule that out. If you have multiple kids in school, or if your kids are going to an expensive school, I mean, you might make $100,000-$200,000 a year, but if your kid goes to an Ivy League school, you're still going to qualify. In most cases, you're still going to qualify for some financial aid. So a lot of people qualify for more financial aid than they think. But even if you don't, even if you make $500,000 a year and you got 1 kid in school and he's going to a state school and you're not going to qualify for any financial aid, you know, it's still better, you know, to, you know, plan accordingly, because who knows what life is going to do to you. Maybe you lose your job. Maybe you go through a period of time of unemployment and you'd like to qualify for some financial aid. So that's one of the benefits of this life insurance, is that it doesn't penalize you. You know, great question. All right. All right. Can anyone think of any other questions that I may have missed? I appreciate your feedback. This has been very helpful. Let me bounce over to, you know, the comments. It looks like, okay, I think I've gotten most of those. My phone is still buzzing. I'm just wanting to make sure that nobody has a comment about a problem with their order. If you're trying to sign up and you have any sort of problems, I want to make sure that I'm here to answer any of those questions for those of you who are getting started. I know some of you might not be watching this with your spouse, so you want your spouse to learn this information before you get signed up. I'm going to encourage you to get signed up anyway, because, you know, this offer might not be available for very long. And to be honest with you, a few $100, you're definitely going to get your value out of the few $100. Even if you decide that you don't need all of the information or all of the services, like let's just say that for whatever reason you decide that the insurance strategy is not a good fit for you. That's okay. That's not a requirement. So if you decide you don't want to use the insurance because of your situation for whatever reason, maybe you're a big real estate investor and you want to use your real estate, or maybe you're a big stock trader and you want to use that option, you don't have to use the insurance plan. All right. That was just, that's the most common. Okay. Most of our clients do use the insurance plan, but that doesn't mean you have to. So we will still help you with the college loan information. We will still help you to, get what you're still going to get all the training to be able to reduce the cost of college. We'll still help you create a college funding plan, right? Your college funding plan doesn't have to include the insurance, all right? But even for a few $100, it's worth looking into it so we can run all of the numbers for you, right? We want to be able to run the numbers and show you the details. I don't have time in a short webinar to give you all of the details on how this insurance works. So I'll run all the numbers for you. I'll put in your specific numbers with your age, with your kids, all that kind of stuff. Between my team and I, we're going to show you exactly how it would apply to your situation. Okay. So, so for a few $100, you really don't have anything to lose. Your spouse shouldn't be too upset with that kind of an investment. All right. Okay, hold on. Is it better to be on the child for cost purposes? Okay. A couple of emails are coming in. There are 2 questions. I think I got those. Can a 401k be rolled over to a life insurance savings account? Okay. Can 401k money be rolled over into an insurance account? Yes, after you're 59 and a half. Prior to 59 and a half, way too many penalties and taxes and everything else. So, it is very common for people to take their retirement and move it over into the life insurance after 59 and a half, because then they can get all their taxes out of the way. If you think that taxes are going to go up in the future, it may be beneficial to pay them now and get them out of the way. And then it would be in the insurance and be guaranteed to never be taxed in the future. So that's pretty powerful, from a tax standpoint. I think I saw a couple others in here. Let me just double check. Okay. In other words, is it better to have another child with customer? Okay. Yeah. So I think we've answered most of those. Perfect. Okay. So a couple emails coming in, checking the chat. It looks like I've got notifications that the orders are working. I've got people signing up. If you are signing up right now, if you've signed up, make sure that you watch your email, because sometimes it shows up in your junk or your spam, just because of how we automate all these emails. Make sure you check your junk and your spam. If you don't see an email from me, send an email to lance@collegefundingeducation.com. I want to make sure that you get all of your links to join our membership area and your links, the links to our calendar. All right. You'll get the link to our calendar to set up your first appointment, and I'll get you the link to the membership area. So make sure that you get that. If you don't get that, send me an email at lance@collegefundingeducation.com. Okay. All right. So looks like so far so good. Everything seems to be working. I don't see any more questions coming in. It looks like I've answered them all. So we'll call it, we'll wrap it up. So thanks again for being on. I hope this was helpful. I hope you gained something from it. We would love to work with you and walk you through the process. Go to collegefundingsolution.com/order. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, and we look forward to working with those of you who've been signing up, and we'll be talking with you soon. So thanks again for being on. You guys all have a great day, great night, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.